The Grand Chamber of the Unified Galactic Council had never been so silent. 12,000 representatives from the most advanced civilizations in known space sat frozen, their eyes fixed on the massive holographic display dominating the center of the room. The image showed the Voraxian system, or rather, what remained of it, where 7 planets and countless research stations once orbited a brilliant blue star. Only emptiness remained. No debris, no radiation signature, not even the quantum echo that should have lingered after such a catastrophic event. The entire system had simply ceased to exist, as if it had been carefully excised from the fabric of reality itself. High Counselor Zixtal, their crystalline form reflecting the dim emergency lighting, finally broke the silence. That makes 13 systems in the past solar cycle. Their voice, usually a melodious chime, carried an edge of desperation. Our most advanced prediction models have failed. The anomaly's spread is accelerating beyond all projected parameters. From their elevated platform, the Council of Five, leaders of the most ancient spacefaring races, exchanged glances that carried the weight of millennia. They had guided the galaxy through wars, plagues, and even the death of stars. But this was different. The quantum barriers we established around the Hexteri cluster lasted only minutes, reported Admiral Venn, their bioluminescent patterns pulsing with agitation. Our most advanced AI networks can't even process the data fast enough to track its movement patterns. It's as if the very laws of physics bend around it. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of voices, each species adding their own brand of fear to the mix. The hovering gaseous beings of the Mist Collective swirled in agitated patterns. The silicon-based Earthen representatives clicked their crystal appendages in distress. Even the usually stoic energy beings of the Photonic Assembly flickered with barely contained panic. Silence. High Counselor Zixtal's command reverberated through the chamber. We have gathered the finest minds in the galaxy. Every technological innovation at our disposal has been deployed. Yet the anomaly continues to grow. At its current rate of expansion, it will reach the core worlds within 3 solar cycles. The projection change, showing the anomaly's predicted path. A writhing tendril of nothingness reaching toward the heart of galactic civilization. Entire sectors would vanish, taking with them the combined knowledge and achievement of millions of years of progress. In the oppressive silence that followed, a single voice spoke up from the lower tiers. What about the Deathworlders? All eyes turned toward the source. A junior xenobiologist from the Outer Rim Studies Division. Her name was Telshi, and she immediately seemed to regret drawing the attention of the entire council. Explain yourself, junior scientist, Zixtal commanded, though their tone suggested they were grasping at any possibility, no matter how remote. Telshi's voice gained strength as she continued. 3 standard cycles ago, our deep space surveys located a previously unknown civilization on a Class 13 Deathworld. Their neural architecture, it's unlike anything we've ever encountered. They process reality in ways that defy our understanding. Murmurs of disgust rippled through the chamber. Deathworlders were considered little more than savages, species that evolved on planets so hostile that most council races couldn't even survive on their surfaces. The very idea of consulting them on a crisis of this magnitude was nearly blasphemous. You speak of Earth, one of the Council of Five stated, their ancient voice carrying a mix of curiosity and revulsion. A planet of predators and prey, where the very environment seeks to destroy its inhabitants. What could such primitive beings offer in this crisis? Telshi's next words would change the course of galactic history. Perhaps, honored ones, it is precisely because they evolved in such chaos that they might see patterns we cannot. After all, what is this anomaly if not the ultimate predator? And who better to understand a predator than those who have spent their entire evolutionary history either being one or surviving them? The chamber erupted once again, but this time, the chaos was tinged with something new. Dr. Amanda Drake was having one hell of a Monday. The quantum scanner had been acting up since dawn, spitting out readings that defied every known law of physics. She'd already gone through 3 pots of coffee, and the mountain air outside her underground laboratory in Colorado's Front Range was starting to look mighty inviting. "Come on, you stubborn piece of," she muttered, adjusting the scanner's sensitivity for the 100th time. The readings weren't just anomalous. They were impossible. According to her instruments, a portion of space-time in her lab was both existing and not existing simultaneously, and not in the usual quantum superposition kind of way. The air in front of her workstation began to shimmer, like heat waves rising from hot asphalt. Amanda's first thought was that the scanner had finally given up the ghost and was about to explode. Her second thought evaporated entirely as reality itself seemed to fold inward, creating a doorway where none should exist. Through this impossible opening stepped 3 figures that her brain initially refused to process. The first was tall and crystalline, their body refracting the lab's fluorescent lighting into rainbow patterns across the walls. The second appeared to be made of living light, their form shifting and flowing like aurora borealis given purpose. The third looked like nothing so much as a highly evolved jellyfish hovering in midair. Amanda's hand instinctively reached for the baseball bat she kept under her desk, a habit left over from late nights in less secure labs. Her fingers had just brushed the wood when the crystalline being spoke. "Dr. Amanda Drake." Their voice sounded like wind chimes in a breeze. "We apologize for the dramatic entrance, but time is of the essence. I am High Counselor Zixtal of the Unified Galactic Council, and we need your help." The bat stayed where it was, but Amanda's scientific curiosity began to overwhelm her fight-or-flight response. "Unified Galactic Council." She found herself speaking with remarkable steadiness, considering the circumstances. "I assume you have some form of credentials." A small laugh like tinkling glass came from Zixtal. "Your species' capacity for adaptation is remarkable. Most beings face their first alien contact with either panic or prostration. You ask for credentials." The light beam moved forward, its voice a harmonious blend of frequencies. "Perhaps this will suffice." The beam of energy shot from them to Amanda's main computer screen, and suddenly it was displaying data that made her quantum scanner's readings look mundane by comparison. "These are star charts," she breathed, her professional fascination now fully engaged. "But these systems, they're just gone." She turned to face the aliens, her eyes sharp. "You're not here for a social call, are you?" "No." The jellyfish-like being spoke, their tentacles rippling with bioluminescent patterns. "We're here because your planet, what you call Earth, has produced something unique in the galaxy. Minds that can comprehend chaos as easily as order." Zixtal moved closer, their crystalline form catching the light. "Your species evolved on what we call a Deathworld, a planet so hostile that most spacefaring races cannot even visit its surface. The gravity alone would crush them. The temperature swings would shatter their bodies. The atmospheric pressure would implode their forms. But these conditions," the light being continued, "have given your kind something we lack. Neural architecture that can process multiple layers of reality simultaneously. You see patterns in chaos that our most advanced AI cannot compute." Amanda's mind was racing, connecting dots with the speed that had made her one of the youngest department heads in quantum physics history. "The missing systems," she said. "You're tracking something that doesn't follow normal physical laws, aren't you? Something that behaves more like the natural disasters and predators your species has survived for millions of years," Zixtal finished. "Exactly. Dr. Drake, we need your help not despite your evolution on a Deathworld, but because of it. Will you help us save the galaxy?" Amanda looked at her quantum scanner. still displaying those impossible readings. Then back at the aliens. A slow smile spread across her face. The same kind of smile her ancestors might have worn when figuring out how to turn fire from a threat into a tool. "Tell me everything," she said. "You're telling me." The anomaly changed direction 3 times before hitting the Voraxian system. Dr. Amanda Drake leaned forward in her chair, her eyes fixed on the holographic display that now dominated her lab's central chamber. Around her sat the team she'd handpicked, each one chosen for their unique experience with Earth's most extreme phenomena. Dr. Marcus Storm Chaser Rodriguez hadn't taken his eyes off the anomaly's movement patterns since they'd started. After 2 decades of pursuing the most dangerous tornadoes across Tornado Alley, he had an almost supernatural ability to predict chaotic weather systems. "It's moving like a supercell," he muttered, his fingers tracing the anomaly's path through space. "Look at those direction changes. They're not random." "Agreed," chimed in Dr. Kelly Morrison, who'd spent 15 years studying deep-sea predator behavior. Her time in submersibles, tracking everything from great whites to giant squid, had given her an intimate understanding of how hunters moved in 3-dimensional space. It's hunting. Those changes in direction. Their search patterns. The alien representatives exchanged worried glances. High Counselor Zixtal's crystalline form seemed to dim slightly. "Our most advanced predictive AIs saw no discernible pattern in these movements. Are you certain?" Tom Wilderness Walsh, a former Special Forces survival expert who'd made a second career studying predator-prey relationships in Earth's most hostile environments, let out a short laugh. "Your AIs haven't spent time watching a wolf pack herd their prey, or a pride of lions set up an ambush. This thing isn't just moving, it's hurting." Amanda felt a chill run down her spine as the pieces started coming together. She manipulated the hologram, expanding the view to show the anomaly's path over the past 3 months. "Look here," she pointed to a series of affected systems. "It's not just consuming the systems it hits, it's creating a pattern. Each destroyed system is like a fence post, corralling everything in this sector toward the Centauri cluster," Kelly finished, her eyes widening. "A dozen resource-rich systems, all packed together. It's like a cosmic coral reef, the perfect hunting ground." The light-beam member of the alien delegation flickered rapidly. "Their equivalent of agitation. But this suggests intelligence, purpose. Our studies indicated the anomaly was a natural phenomenon, a random quantum fluctuation that—" "Nothing that hunts is random," Tom interrupted, his voice carrying the weight of someone who'd both been predator and prey. "Every predator has a pattern. You just have to know how to see it." Marcus had pulled up additional data on his tablet. "The energy readings from the destroyed systems, they're not consistent. It's taking more from some than others. Just like a storm system drawing more energy from warmer areas of ocean." Amanda stood up, her mind racing. She walked to the main display and started marking points on the map. "If we look at it like a weather system combined with predator behavior," she drew lines between the points, creating a web of interconnected paths. "It's creating its own ecosystem. The destroyed systems aren't just casualties. They're like controlled burns," Marcus said, snapping his fingers. "Like how forest fires can actually create new growth patterns. It's not just destroying, it's reshaping space itself." The jellyfish-like alien's tentacles writhed in what might have been dismay. "This is impossible. No natural force could exhibit such complex behavior." Tom's face split into a grim smile. "Welcome to Earth's School of Survival, where the impossible is just another Tuesday. Every force of nature on our planet has tried to kill us at some point. We're still here because we learned to see the patterns everyone else missed." Amanda turned to face the alien delegation, her expression both excited and determined. "We need to stop treating this thing like a physics problem, and start treating it like what it is, an apex predator in a new ecosystem. And lucky for you, she gestured to her team, you've just hired the galaxy's best big game hunters. The aliens looked at each other, then back at the humans. For the first time, they began to understand why evolution on a death world might not have been a disadvantage after all. The bridge of the Galactic Council vessel Starweaver hummed with tension as Dr. Amanda Drake and her team prepared for their first test against the anomaly. The holographic displays showed the Thanner system, 3 inhabited planets orbiting a dying star, directly in the anomaly's predicted path. Your plan is, High Counselor Zixtal paused, their crystalline form shimmering with uncertainty, to attract its attention. Not exactly, Kelly Morrison replied, her eyes fixed on the deep space sensors she'd modified based on her experience tracking marine predators. We're going to make this system look like a bad meal. Marcus Rodriguez was at the primary control station, his hands dancing over the alien interface as naturally as he'd once handled storm tracking equipment. In tornado analysis, we learned that sometimes the best way to deflect a storm's path is to alter the temperature gradients around it. We're applying the same principle here. Using the Council's quantum technology, Amanda added, we're going to create an energy pattern that mimics a system that's already been depleted, like making a rich hunting ground look like it's already been picked clean. Tom Walsh, who'd been silent for the past hour, suddenly straightened, movement on the edge of the sensor range. Our friend is right on schedule. The anomaly appeared on their screens like a tear in reality itself, a writhing mass of nothingness that defied the laws of physics. The alien crew members instinctively backed away from the display, but the humans leaned forward, their eyes bright with predatory focus. Look at how it moves, Kelly whispered, just like a great white approaching a seal colony. Testing. Probing. Amanda's fingers flew over her console, initiating the energy masking field now. Marcus, start the disruptive pattern sequence. The space around the Thanner system began to shift as the human team implemented their plan. Using the advanced alien technology, they created a complex web of energy signatures that made the resource-rich system appear depleted and unappetizing. It's starting to work, Marcus called out, his voice carrying the same excitement it had when he'd successfully predicted a tornado's path. The anomaly's changing course, just like a storm system hitting a cold front. But their victory was short-lived. The anomaly suddenly stopped, hovering at the edge of the system. Its form began to change, shifting and warping in ways that made even the humans' battle-hardened nerves tingle. It's adapting, Tom said grimly, just like a predator that's found a new type of prey. It's learning. The anomaly surged forward with newfound purpose, its approach pattern completely different from before. The energy masking field that had initially deterred it now seemed to draw it in, like a shark attracted to blood in the water. Shut it down, Amanda ordered, her mind racing. Kelly, what are you seeing? Kelly's eyes were glued to her modified sensors. It's not just adapting, it's evolving. The pattern recognition we used against it. It's using that same principle to find new ways to feed. We didn't just show our hand. We taught it how to play the game. The bridge erupted in chaos as the alien crew began emergency evacuation procedures for the Thanner system. But Amanda's team remained focused, their minds already working on the next move. This is actually good news, Amanda said, her voice cutting through the panic. We proved 2 critical things. First, it can be influenced by our actions. Second, it's capable of learning, which means it's not just a force of nature. It's a living entity. And everything that lives, Tom added with a predatory smile, can be hunted. High Counselor Zixtal turned their crystalline form toward the humans, their voice a mix of fear and awe. You seem almost pleased that your plan failed. Failed. Amanda laughed, And there was something in that laugh that made the aliens remember these humans were born from a world of predators. This wasn't a failure. This was reconnaissance. Now we know what we're really dealing with. And better yet, it just showed us how to beat it. As the anomaly consumed the outer edges of the Thanner system, the human team was already planning their next move. After all, on Earth, the most dangerous predators had always been the ones smart enough to learn. And humanity had millennia of experience dealing with those. The Unified Council's Emergency Command Center was dead silent as Amanda Drake outlined her team's new plan. The holographic display showed a complex network of quantum barriers and energy fields that made even the most advanced alien scientists blink in confusion. "You want to do what?" High Counselor Zixtel's voice carried a note of disbelief that made their crystalline form vibrate. "We're going to build a trap," Amanda said, her eyes gleaming with the same look her ancient ancestors had when they first figured out how to hunt creatures larger than themselves. But not just any trap. We're going to create an entire artificial ecosystem. Kelly Morrison stepped forward, pulling up images of Earth's national parks and wildlife reserves. On Earth, when we need to control dangerous predator populations, we don't just hunt them directly. We manage their entire environment. The anomaly's shown us it can learn, Marcus Rodriguez added, his hands dancing over the controls to demonstrate the energy flow patterns. "So we're going to give it something new to learn. How to hunt in our territory, by our rules." Tom Walsh, who'd been studying the alien ship's specifications, looked up with a grim smile. "We'll need volunteers who can handle extreme G-forces and think on their feet. The kind of people who'd feel at home in Earth's most dangerous environments." The light-beam member of the council flickered rapidly. "You're suggesting using living beings as bait. The risk is acceptable," interrupted a new voice. Everyone turned to see a group of humans standing at the chamber's entrance, military personnel, deep space pilots, and extreme environment specialists from every corner of Earth. Their leader, a battle-hardened Space Force colonel named Sarah Martins, stepped forward. "We've been monitoring the situation," Martins said, her scared face set with determination. "Every one of us has volunteered. We're used to operating in conditions that would kill most species. Might as well put that Deathworld heritage to good use." Amanda nodded, then turned back to the display. "The plan has 3 phases. First, we create a series of quantum game reserves, controlled space where we can influence every variable. Second, we use modified ships to act as lures, drawing the anomaly into these spaces. And third, the jellyfish-like alien asked, their tentacles writhing with anxiety. "Third," Tom said with a predatory grin, "we teach it what it means to hunt in humanity's domain." The display shifted to show the modified ships, sleek, dangerous vessels that looked more like deep-sea predators than traditional spacecraft. Kelly had helped design them based on her knowledge of how sharks and killer whales move through water. "These ships can handle 20 Gs without breaking a sweat," Martins explained, her eyes gleaming at the prospect. "Most species would black out at 4, but we're not most species. We're Deathworlders." The Alien Council members exchanged worried glances. The energy requirements for these quantum reserves would be enormous, one noted. "And the risk to the pilots is nothing compared to what our ancestors faced," Amanda cut in. "They hunted mammoths with stone spears. They crossed oceans in wooden boats. They survived ice ages with nothing but fire and determination. This," she gestured at the display, "this is just another day at the office for a species born on a world that tried to kill them every single day." The room fell silent again, but this time the silence was different. The aliens were looking at the humans with new eyes, finally beginning to understand that what they'd dismissed as primitive survival instincts might be exactly what the galaxy needed. "Very well, High Counselor Zixtel said finally. You have your authorization. But remember, if this fails, it won't. Amanda said, her voice carrying the weight of every human who'd ever stared down a predator and lived to tell the tale. Because unlike every other species in this room, we know something crucial about survival. And what's that? The light being asked. Amanda's smile was pure predator. Sometimes, the only way to beat a monster is to become one yourself. The volunteer pilots grinned in response, each of them recognizing the truth in her words. After all, their species hadn't just survived Earth's deadliest challenges. They'd mastered them. Now it was time to show the galaxy what real apex predators could do. Colonel Sarah Martinez's modified Hunter-class ship cut through the quantum reserve like a shark through deep water. The vessel's enhanced inertial dampeners screamed as she pulled a 20G turn that would have liquefied most alien pilots. Behind her, 5 other human pilots executed the same maneuver with perfect precision. Formation Alpha, she barked into the comm. Remember your training. This is just like flying the Grand Canyon at night, except the canyon's trying to eat you. In the control center, Amanda Drake and her team monitored the operation. The quantum reserve they'd created was a masterpiece of engineering. A controlled space where they could manipulate energy patterns like a conductor leading an orchestra. The anomaly's taking the bait, Kelly reported, her eyes fixed on the biomimetic sensors she'd designed. It's moving exactly like a pack predator when it spots wounded prey. Tom Walsh stood at the tactical station, his experience with predator behavior proving invaluable. Martinez, your team is the wounded gazelle. Make it look good, but don't oversell it. This thing's smarter than it looks. The human ships danced through space in a complex pattern that looked like chaos to the watching alien council members, but made perfect sense to anyone who'd studied Earth's predator-prey relationships. Each movement was calculated to draw the anomaly deeper into their trap. Contact in 3, 2, 1. Marcus called out, his storm tracking experience letting him predict the anomaly's movements with uncanny accuracy. The void erupted as the anomaly burst into the quantum reserve, its non-Euclidean form writhing with hungry purpose. But instead of finding easy prey, it encountered something it had never seen before, humans fighting on their own terms. Now, Amanda commanded. Martinez's squadron split apart in a maneuver that would have torn lesser ships to pieces. The G-forces were devastating, but the human pilots, children of a high-gravity death world, merely grinned through the strain. Initiating quantum lock sequence, Kelly announced, just like herding fish into a net. The anomaly reacted with frightening intelligence, attempting to shift into different dimensional states. But the humans had anticipated this. Every escape route led to another carefully prepared trap, each one designed using principles learned from Earth's most successful predators. We've got a breach in Section 7. One of the alien technicians cried out. The anomaly had found a weak point in their quantum barriers and was beginning to tear through. That's not a breach, Tom said with a predatory smile. That's a channeling point. Martinez, spring the trap. Colonel Martinez's voice crackled over the comm. Time to show this thing why you don't corner something that evolved from both predator and prey. Executing Maneuver Thunderbird. The human ships suddenly reversed course, their engines pushing far beyond safety limits. They weren't running away. They were charging straight at the anomaly, their modified weapon systems pumping out carefully calibrated energy pulses that forced it to maintain corporeal form. Just like a matador with a bull, Amanda murmured. The cape isn't the weapon. The position is. The anomaly lashed out, its energy tendrils catching one of the human ships. The vessel's hull screamed under the impact, but its pilot, a former Antarctic Research Station commander, kept control through sheer Deathworld determination. Hull breach on the Hyperion. Marcus reported. "Lieutenant Chen's life support is critical." But Chen's voice cut through the chaos, steady despite her ship falling apart around her. "Doesn't matter. Position is perfect. Taking the shot." Her damaged ship fired its quantum disruptors at point-blank range, the blast catching the anomaly in a moment of materialization. The energy cascade that followed was beautiful and terrifying, like lightning dancing through a tornado. "Direct hit," Kelly shouted. "The pattern is disrupting. It's actually working." The alien council members watched in stunned silence as the human squadron, moving with the coordinated grace of pack hunters, pressed their advantage. These weren't the primitive Deathworlders they'd expected. These were masters of survival, turning millions of years of evolution on a death world into a dance of steel and starfire. Amanda's voice was quiet but filled with pride. "This is what we do. We take every challenge that tries to kill us and turn it into a tool for survival. The anomaly may be the galaxy's apex predator, but it's about to learn something important." "What's that?" High Counselor Zixtal asked, their crystalline form vibrating with mixed fear and awe. "On Earth, even apex predators sometimes become prey." The victory celebrations in the control center lasted exactly 37 seconds before Kelly Morrison's modified sensors began screaming warnings. The anomaly, though wounded by Lieutenant Chen's desperate gambit, was changing in ways that made the previous encounters look like mere skirmishes. Multiple quantum signatures detected, she called out, her voice tight with the same tension she'd felt watching a great white shark change from curious to hostile. "It's not just adapting anymore. It's evolving." Amanda Drake stared at the readings, her mind racing. "Marcus, compare these energy patterns to your storm data. Does this look familiar?" Marcus Rodriguez's eyes widened as he pulled up his historical database of tornado behaviors. "Holy hell. It's acting like a supercell when a bigger storm system approaches. This isn't an attack pattern. It's a retreat." "Retreat." High Counselor Zixtal's crystalline form pulsed with confusion. "But it's consuming systems faster than ever." Tom Walsh, who'd been unusually quiet, suddenly straightened in his chair. "It's not consuming them for food anymore. It's consuming them for speed." He turned to the others, his face grim. "Like a prey animal eating as much as it can before running from a bigger predator." The control room fell silent as the implications sank in. Colonel Martinez's voice crackled over the comm from her battle-damaged ship. "If this thing is running, what the hell is it running from?" Amanda's fingers flew over her console, recalibrating the sensors to look beyond the anomaly's path of destruction. The holographic display shifted, showing a wider view of the galaxy. And there, just at the edge of their detection range, was something that made even the hardened human warriors go pale. "That's not just another anomaly," Kelly whispered. That's the source. The thing that lurked behind their quarry defied description. If the anomaly they'd been fighting was like a quantum tornado, this was like a hurricane that spanned thousands of light years. It moved through higher dimensions, as if the laws of physics were mere suggestions, and its very presence made reality shiver. "Now I understand," Amanda said, her voice filled with a mix of horror and wonder. "Our anomaly isn't an apex predator at all. It's a scared animal, running from something much, much worse." The alien council members began calling for immediate evacuation of every system in the path of this new threat. But the humans remained focused, their Deathworld instincts kicking into high gear. "Look at the pattern," Marcus said, his experience with devastating weather systems finally paying off. "The smaller anomaly isn't just running. It's trying to hide its trail. Every system it consumes creates a kind of quantum wake that obscures its path." Kelly nodded, her eyes fixed on the sensors, just like how some marine animals use ink clouds or disturbed sediment to hide their escape route. "So we've been going about this all wrong," Tom added. "We're not hunting a predator. We're dealing with a terrified prey animal that's destroying everything in its path to survive." Amanda turned to face the alien council, her expression set with the same determination that had helped her ancestors face down ice ages and giant predators. "We need to stop trying to kill it. We need to help it. Help it." Zixtal's voice was almost a shriek. "It has destroyed 13 star systems." "Because it's scared," Amanda insisted, "and nothing is more dangerous than a cornered animal. But we humans know something about being both predator and prey. We know how to handle this." Colonel Martinez's squadron, though battered, formed up again on her command. "Whatever the plan is, Doc, we'd better move fast. That big bastard out there isn't slowing down." Amanda looked at her team. The storm chaser, the marine biologist, the survival expert, and saw in their eyes the same understanding. They'd evolved on a world where everything tried to kill them, where being both hunter and hunted was the key to survival. Now it was time to put those skills to the ultimate test. "We're going to save it," she said finally. "And in doing so, we might just save the entire galaxy. Because if there's one thing humanity knows how to do, it's face down something bigger and meaner than ourselves." And when Dr. Amanda Drake stood before the hastily assembled fleet of modified human ships, each one piloted by a volunteer who'd grown up fighting Earth's endless array of natural challenges, behind them, the quantum sensors showed both their target, the smaller anomaly, and the cosmic horror that pursued it. "This plan is insane," High Counselor Zixtal stated, their crystalline form vibrating with stress. "You want to create a quantum sanctuary using your ships as anchor points. Sometimes the best way to save something is to give it a safe place to hide," Kelly Morrison said, her eyes on the sensor readings. "We learned that from every endangered species we've ever protected on Earth." Colonel Martinez's voice crackled over the comm. "All ships report ready, Doc. Whatever we're going to do, it better be soon. That big nasty is getting closer, and our friend here is looking pretty desperate." Amanda nodded, then addressed the fleet. "Remember your training. This is just like creating a wildlife corridor, except we're doing it with quantum fields instead of forest paths. Every ship needs to maintain perfect position, no matter what." Marcus Rodriguez, monitoring the energy patterns, called out, "The smaller anomaly is changing course. It senses the corridor we're creating." "Now comes the hard part," Tom Walsh said grimly. "We have to convince it we're not another threat." The human fleet moved into position, their ships forming a complex three-dimensional pattern that created a quantum safe zone. A pocket of spacetime where the laws of physics bent but didn't break. It was like building a sanctuary in the middle of a hurricane, using nothing but gut instinct and sheer human determination. The smaller anomaly approached cautiously, its energy patterns showing the same wariness that Earth's wildlife displayed when encountering unknown situations. The larger entity behind it surged forward, its presence distorting reality in ways that made even the battle-hardened human pilots flinch. "Steady," Amanda commanded. "Remember, we're not fighting either of them. We're creating a safe path, just like our ancestors did when they first started protecting Earth's endangered species." Lieutenant Chen, her ship still damaged from the earlier battle, was the first to make direct contact with the anomaly's quantum field. It's trying to communicate," she gasped. "The patterns, they're like the ones we use for our quantum barriers, but more complex." "It's not just running," Kelly realized, her eyes wide. "It's been trying to talk to us this whole time, using the only language it knows, pure quantum information." Amanda's fingers flew over her console, reconfiguring their quantum fields to match the anomaly's patterns. The response was immediate. The entity surged into their artificial sanctuary, its energy signature changing from chaotic terror to something almost grateful. The larger horror behind it roared in frustration, a sound that existed not in space, but in the fabric of reality itself. But the human fleet held their position, their ships straining against forces that would have torn apart any vessel not built to withstand a Deathworlder's touch. "Hold the line," Martine shouted as her ship's systems screamed in protest, just like standing in the eye of a hurricane. "We bend, we don't break." The moment seemed to last forever, humanity's finest holding a shield of pure will and technology against something that defied the laws of nature. Then, finally, the larger entity began to retreat, unable to break through the complex quantum sanctuary the humans had created. In the control center, the alien council members watched in stunned silence as the impossible unfolded. The smaller anomaly, now safely contained within the human's protective field, began to change. Its chaotic energy patterns stabilized, forming something new, a bridge between normal space and whatever higher dimensions these entities called home. "We did it," Amanda breathed, her voice filled with wonder. "We didn't just save it, we gave it a new home." High Counselor Zixtal turned to face her, their crystalline form glowing with a new understanding. "In all our millions of years of evolution, we never considered that the solution to some problems isn't to destroy or control, but to protect and nurture. Perhaps this is why the universe needed a species forged in the fires of a death world." Amanda smiled as she watched the human fleet guide their new ally to safety, their ships moving with the same sure purpose that had once guided their ancient ancestors across Earth's most treacherous terrains. "That's the thing about evolution on a death world," she said. "It doesn't just teach you how to survive. It teaches you how to help others survive too. And maybe that's the greatest strength of all."